All righty. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the first inaugural ILAS Awards. So my name is Aaron Morrison. I am the Assistant Director of the Institute for Leadership and Service here at Valparaiso University. And we are thrilled to welcome you to this award ceremony, which recognizes faculty and students here at Valparaiso University who have provided exemplary reflection to our community on who we are called to be. We have 7 recipients that we will be honoring here tonight, and each of them will have the opportunity to offer some brief remarks as they receive their award. But first, we have some opening remarks from our ILAS Director, Dr. Davey Henriksen.
Good evening. It's my privilege to welcome you, and specifically to welcome our 3 faculty and 3 of our 4 student award winners. One, unfortunately, was able to come to being down with her 2nd dose of Moderna. And also, I want to welcome the guests that you've chosen to bring along. This is a great privilege. These sort of events, I've been here for 14 months, 12 of which have been during COVID. So I've seen precious few in-person events like this. So this is really a great thing to see. A while back, one of my best students came to my office after class, and she asked me a question that stuck with me for quite a while. She said that as she was nearing graduation, everyone was asking her what she was going to do after college. And of course, what they were really asking was what sort of job or prestigious internship did she have lined up for once she graduated. And I knew the student to be exceptionally bright. I knew that she had a lot of amazing job prospects in line. But she confessed to me that her anxiety was not really about the question of what I'm going to do after college, but who do I want to be? It's a question of character, rather than simply a question of a career choice. It's a question that goes beyond a matter of livelihood and instead gets at a question about what makes for a life truly worth living. This past year has been difficult, I think, for each of us in different ways. It's forced many of us to rethink what matters most, both personally and also sometimes professionally. A pandemic sent many of us home for months. Some of us actually were furloughed, or perhaps were facing the loss of a job. Emerging social protest movements drew our attention to systemic injustices and political divisions that seem to threaten the very order of things. So in anxious times, we're forced to ask, even if we don't want to face these questions, what really matters? What sort of person should I be in order to render justice to my neighbor? What sort of loves should I cultivate, even when everything seems unstable around me? What am I called to do personally and professionally when things beyond my control have placed a gigantic question mark on so many things that I used to be able just to assume to be the case? The Institute for Leadership and Service aims to give members of the Valpo community a space to think about vocation and the virtues that help us discern our passion and our calling in life. Vocation is not merely what you do or where you work. It's not simply putting a spiritual veneer on what you or your colleagues or your parents or your career counselor already want you to accomplish in life. Rather, the language of vocation and indeed moral character expresses a deeply felt conviction about what we want to be as authentic human beings and how we can find our identity in service to others. The preacher Frederick Buechner once wrote, "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." Our gladness, our sense of human flourishing, is inextricably bound up with the world's hunger for what is true and meaningful and good. And discerning all this is no easy task. It's one that can easily lead to disappointment or possibly even resentment, especially when things don't go as planned, which we all experienced, again, in different in sometimes very profound ways in the last year here at Valpo. When career paths reach a dead end, when we're isolated from friends and family, when we fail to achieve what others expect of us, that's when our character has a chance to shine through in even the most challenging of times. So we have 7 exceptional individuals here today who I think represent the best of what Valparaiso has to offer. They are people whom their peers have recognized as exemplars of courage, humility, justice, wisdom, and other virtues. And in a relatively small way, we hope that this award is an act of public recognition for the way that each of you have served your university, your colleagues, your friends, and also the broader community. So Mark, Miranda, Riva, Dawson, Ashley in absentia, Jacob, and Richard. It's our great privilege to have you here. Congratulations.
And now we will proceed with the presentations of the ILAS Awards, and we're going to be alternating back and forth between the faculty and the student award tonight. So when I call your name, if you will please come forward and you will receive the award. And so our first faculty award winner tonight is Mark Bartush, a Valpo grad who went on to earn his PhD in Hebrew Bible at the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago, began teaching in the theology department in 2000. His final class was last Friday. An ordained pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, through the years, he has treasured the opportunities to participate in the worship life of the Chapel of the Resurrection. Mark has resigned his position at Valpo and is actively seeking a new call into parish ministry. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Mark Bartush. Congratulations.
Thank you, Davey and Aaron, for this wonderful afternoon and for this wonderful honor. I've understood my work as a faculty member in theology as a calling, and maybe I've cheated to some extent, because for me, it literally is the case that I am in fact called here by an expression of the church to teach theology. But that has shaped the way that I think about what I have done here for more than 20 years. I don't assume that you read what I wrote, but there I wrote about humility, faith, self-sacrifice, and charity as the central virtues of the academic vocation. And I cited my sources. But these virtues transcend the academic vocation. They relate not only to how we approach our distinctive disciplines, but how all of us, how we engage with one another. This is how I closed that essay. I wrote, faculty, staff, and students have been oftentimes in different ways seriously affected by this global pandemic. We have felt that so much is out of our control, our daily lives, and sometimes our livelihoods. We have found ourselves needing to make sometimes difficult choices. And I and others have done just that. And I was thinking here especially of other faculty leaders, as well as my department and program chair colleagues, that we have heeded the call to embody the virtue of humility, to think of others before thinking of ourselves, to make room to listen carefully and compassionately to the real life anxieties and questions and worries of others, to recognize in all honesty our own limitations, what we can and what we cannot do or change, and to admit them, to practice patience with others, encourage flexibility, and seek understanding, and to support others as we face new questions and situations in these extraordinary days, not only in the life of this community, but in each of our individual lives altogether. Thank you all very, very much.
Our first student awardee for tonight is a junior history major, an education minor, and Christ College scholar from Wayzata, Minnesota. He is a small group leader for InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, works in the Valparaiso University Office of Undergraduate Admissions, is an active member of the Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity, and serves on TEDx Valparaiso University's executive board. After graduation, he plans to pursue a career in Christian ministry. Please join me in recognizing Dawson Hinshorn. Congratulations.
Good evening, and thank you very much. This is a great honor. I think most important out of that little bio is that I intend to pursue a career in Christian ministry. As Davey was describing, there's a sense, I think, especially amongst our generation, of not really knowing what to do. And maybe it's our generation, or maybe it's just the point in which I find myself at 21 years old as a college student, is not really knowing what to do, knowing what I desire, but not what to do. And it's been a challenging thing. I think I have, in the last week, decided I want to do 3 different career paths. And maybe that's just because of finals week and the stress that involves, but there's so many things in which one can participate and do good. But what is the greatest good, and what brings the greatest satisfaction, both to oneself and good for one's community? And it reminds me of the passage of Jeremiah 29, when God describes for the exiled Israelites of what they ought to do as they live in exile. When he says they ought to plant gardens and create beauty, and that they ought to pray for the city in which they are in, and pray for its prosperity. And I've been struck by this idea of creating beauty and reflecting the goodness of God in our created world. And as somebody who's passionate about Christian ministry, these ideas of calling and character directly relate to my faith. And I find that the answers of calling and character are found in creating beauty. And it strikes me as, what am I doing to create beauty in the world? What am I doing that reflects God's goodness, God's authority, God's desire for justice, God's principle and sacrifice of love? And that is the heart of where my essay comes out of. I participated in a history and theology and Christ College course, all cross-listed with one another, about Martin Luther and Martin Luther King Jr. this semester. And it was a remarkable opportunity to consider 2 great reformers who are tied similarly in name and also tied similarly in understanding what love means, although in very different ways. And my essay comes out of this class. As someone who grew up Lutheran, I learned concepts I learned things that I already knew, which was an absolute delight. And delving into Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and his theology and the way in which he spoke of his closest friends and the way in which he spoke of the brotherhood of the world was so striking to me, is that I wanted to reflect in my essay about what does it mean to have a hope? What does it mean to live a life that is not necessarily centered on only what one does, but is motivated to go and do things, to make meaning out of our lives, to have the time that we spend and the actions that we do create meaning. And so I just am blessed by this award, and I hope as you consider my essay and what's written there, is to think about, can we still create beauty today? And can we still reflect God's, the kingdom of God in our lives? And I find that calling and character in whatever vocation, whatever interest, and whatever career paths we find ourselves in, if we can do that rightly and think about how we do it in love, then we can create beauty and plant those gardens and reflect God's kingdom. Thank you.
Our next Virtues of Vocation Faculty Award winner has been a faculty member in the Department of Mechanical Engineering and Bioengineering for 6 years. She earned her PhD in Biomedical Engineering from Northwestern University, where she worked at the Center for Bionic Medicine in the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. Before that, she was a mechanical engineering graduate and student athlete at Valparaiso University. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Reva Johnson.
Thank you. And I want to start by thanking Aaron and Davey for the questions that they posed for the faculty award process. And the main question was, what sort of people are we to be in these uncertain times? And I had a hard time answering that. I think I've been living in survival mode for about the last year. So it was really good for me to have to articulate, what am I really trying to do here? And after thinking about it, I had maybe two main thoughts. And the first is that I want to be a person who listens. I think that different people have been affected really differently by the last year. So it's especially important now that we listen to each other. So for me, that means listening to my students. That means listening to my colleagues here and around the world. It means listening to the people who use the medical devices that we as engineers are studying and designing. It means listening to the people whose voices are hard to hear, whether that's because they are quieter or because they don't agree with me. And I realized at first, well, I didn't realize at first that I was forgetting to listen to myself. And so I again want to thank the Institute for Leadership and Service, because they posted some reflections on vocation. And one of them was by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, in which he wrote about the importance of listening to the genuine inside ourselves. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to phrase one's vocation, and a good reminder for me to also listen to myself. So that's one thing that I thought of in response to that question. And the other, in response to this question of what sort of people are we to be in these uncertain times, is I thought of the word uncertainty. And in my classes, in my engineering classes, we talk about uncertainty in an engineering context, and we calculate uncertainty using language and equations from probability and statistics. And in situations where we have really high uncertainty, which might be something like tracking a rocket through space or using really variable neural signals to control a prosthetic arm, we find that when we include uncertainty in our equations, we get better results. So in other words, when we embrace uncertainty, Instead of avoiding uncertainty, we make better decisions. And I think these equations have some really cool analogies for how we as humans can approach uncertainty and maybe even listen to uncertainty in our decision making. And then just lastly, I've been thinking recently about how vocation also involves tradition. So today I invited Mark Budnick to be here for this award ceremony. He nominated me for this award, and when I was a student at Valpo, Mark was my senior design advisor. And he was really intentional about speaking confidence into me when I was not yet confident in myself. And so I see that now as part of my vocation, to pass along that confidence and to pass along that support to my students now, and to help them and to just show my confidence in them as they are now choosing their vocation. So again, thank you. I'm really honored to be here, and it's fun listening to everyone else's reflections on vocation as well.
Our next student award winner is an absentee tonight, but Ashley Barton is a soon-to-be graduate of Valparaiso University, double majoring in social work and psychology with a concentration area in gender studies. After graduation, she will be relocating to Madison, Wisconsin to pursue a master's degree in social work with certification in school and educational social work. Ashley is eager to continue learning and growing throughout her academic and professional career by utilizing the advocacy, engagement, and clinical skills that she has acquired while studying her undergraduate career here at the university. So let's please have a round of applause for We're going to proceed on to our next Virtues of Vocation Faculty Award winner. And so our next winner is an associate professor and chair of the Department of English. He teaches medieval literature and professional writing. In addition to teaching, he is a French horn player in the local wind orchestra and advisor to the Black student organization Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Sigma Lambda Gamma Multicultural Sorority, and co-advisor of Sigma Tau Delta English Honor Society. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Richard Severe.
I just want to thank the Institute for this opportunity and to be able to speak about this concept of vocation. I have to say that I think I have an advantage. I attended a workshop on vocation in the summer of 2019 in Chicago for a week, sponsored by the institution. So I'm really grateful for that. I had some really good conversations about what it means in terms of calling, to the point now where when prospective students come and visit and bring their parents, I ask that question today. He says, not what do you want to be, but who do you want to be? And of course, they're kind of taken aback by that question. I'm like, you know what? I have this great essay I want you to read. And so I don't know if that really gets them to come here. Like, oh my gosh, I came to visit and I have homework. But it's a really good essay of doing and being. And it asks that question and it talks about redemption and second chances. So it's really good to kind of think about. And I talk to students about not having to figure it out right away, and that there's ways to think about vocation that you probably haven't thought about, especially coming into college and being faced with the idea of, you know, what am I going to do when I get out of here, right? They're already thinking about 4 years ahead in terms of leaving. So I tell them, it's okay, read this essay, relax, and enjoy this, you know, your calling of being a student for the next 4 years. And that kind of gets me to reflect in terms of my calling as a professor, and especially this past year and a half. And I wrote in my reflection about the idea of being there for my students, and also taking into consideration that they were there for me as well, because it wasn't easy for any of us. And those walks that we would take were just as life-giving for me as they were for them. And so this award, when I think of this award, I certainly think of those students that I had the opportunity to be there for, and they being there for me. That was really important. And I think of just the connections I've made over the years. And I don't want to call Adam out, but Adam graduated in 2018. And today we went on one of those walks and just kind of caught up. And so just to show, it goes to show how important just those relationships are, and how just to walk around campus is just so life-giving and important, not only for the students, but for some of us too, who really need that opportunity to connect when it's not there, especially this past year. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for this honor.
Our next Calling and Character Student Award winner is a senior who studies meteorology here at Valpo and who is attending graduate school at Texas Tech University after graduation. His favorite part of the last 4 years has been meeting people from all corners of campus and seeing their faces as he walks to and from class or work. He is grateful to Anna Stewart and the Christ College faculty for CC 499 Senior Colloquium as an opportunity to reflect on the past and on the future, wherever that might be. Please join me in recognizing Mr. Jacob Nadolski.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank you all for being willing to be here today and listen to me talk, even after some of you had maybe the pleasure of reading my essay. So you get to hear me say everything all over again. I won't try to rehash it too much. But what's funny is that I initially hadn't planned to apply for this award, just because when I first read the prompt, nothing really came to mind about what I should write about, and I didn't really think I had that important of a story to tell, and maybe I don't have that important of a story to tell. But I read the prompt and I thought and thought and thought, and that night, this essay that I wrote, based my essay on, kept kind of spinning around in my head. And like Aaron mentioned, it was in the CC 499 Senior Colloquium class that we talked about this essay. It's Mary Catherine Bateson's Composing a Life Story. Highly recommend. Another essay for you to read if you are already interested in Dr. Spears' essay. It basically focuses on what the author calls continuity and discontinuity in the human life. And so Dr. Kolba already mentioned she was happy that I had a math reference in mind, because continuity can mean a lot of different things. And what Mary Catherine Bateson's definition is basically, how does your life as it moves from point to point? Is it continuous or is it discontinuous? And people will choose to frame their life in a different way based on the people that they're talking to. So you guys can probably imagine, if you're talking to your friends, maybe you're more open, you're more vulnerable with them about things that have gone wrong, or things that are stressing you out. And then if you're speaking to a group of people like this, I honestly don't know a lot of you people, you might frame your life in a more continuous way. You might say things went exactly as I planned, and now I'm here, and now I'm doing just great. But what I can say for a fact is that every person in this room, their life wasn't like that. Even the professors that you have that seem to have it really together, they have the PhD and they know what they're talking about. You guys can probably vouch for the fact that at some point you were hesitant about something or concerned about something, or you had a hard day. And so why I wrote this essay was, I've had a lot of success here at Valpo. I've been really grateful for the opportunities that I've had and grateful for awards like this that I've won. And what I see, especially on social media, when this time of year, when it's graduation, people like to advertise the cool things that they've done, the house that they bought, or the class that they passed, or the degree that they have, or the award that they won. And I don't think people talk enough about the struggles that they had along the way. And I think part of the reason I wrote this essay was to convince myself that when I go through struggles like that it's fine, that things do in the end turn out okay, and that nobody's perfect. And so I guess I would just encourage everybody in the crowd to embrace those kinds of things that stress you out or that seem really discontinuous, because when you look at yourself now, you can draw a straight line from where you started to where you are, and that straight line has a lot of really cool characteristics to it, but you know that you went through a lot to get there. So, thank you.
Our final student awardee and our first prize winner for the Calling and Character Student prize is a soon-to-be graduate majoring in French and global service with minors in TESOL and humanities from Edison, New Jersey. She is a Christ College scholar and will complete an internship with Water to Thrive through the CAPS Fellowship Program. In the fall, she will move to Lyon, France to teach English with their TAPIF program. Please join me in recognizing Miranda Ingful.
Wow, okay. I've heard so many wonderful things that you've all had to say, and I'm just beyond honored that I am receiving an award of this caliber. I am extremely honored to be chosen for this award. Thank you to all of the professors who have deeply impacted me, helped me to ask hard questions, and to know more about what my place is in the world. As someone who came to Valpo, born in Mexico, but living most of my life in Edison, New Jersey, I really didn't know what to expect from Indiana except corn. And so I came to college really as an exploratory and undecided major. So I never in my life imagined that I would receive any recognition for knowing what I wanted to do in my life. But so while writing this essay, I really began to reflect. I was also in the class with Jacob, and it just got me thinking more about what is it that I'm passionate about? What are things that I love to do? The things I care about? What do I value? And I've never really had an idea of what my dream job would be. I never knew what I wanted to do. But as I began to learn more about the world and my place in it, as I was taking French classes and classes about the world and global service, I really realized that there are things that I really deeply care about, most notably being cultural curiosity and serving others, particularly vulnerable communities. And there have been numerous experiences that have shown me this. Actually, I was so undecisive after high school that I took a gap year because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I spent 3 months working in Nicaragua, where I learned more about my own biases when moving to a new country. And I learned even here at Valpo in teaching and tutoring elementary school students at Compass International, more about how to be a humble servant to those around me, wherever I'm placed. And so I think the most important thing that I've learned in my 4 years here is cultivating meaningful and deep relationships wherever I go, and seeking out those vulnerable communities and people that are influential to me, and really getting to know them and asking the hard questions and trying to find answers. And I think along with that is also listening, because you have to ask hard questions, but then you have to listen to the answer and change alongside that. So thank you to all the friends and family that have guided me, that have prayed for me, that have laughed with and at me, and have also reprimanded me, mostly my mom and sisters who are at home. And I'm just internally grateful for all the love and the good examples in my life. There have been so many people that have just impacted me and helped me to see how to serve others well and to learn from them. And so thank you so much for this opportunity. I am truly humbled beyond words.
As all our awardees tonight for this evening, before we close, just a few special thanks that we'd like to give out. We want to, please hold your applause for the end. We want to thank newly declared Provost Eric Johnson and Dean Van Zanten for just their general support of ILAS and their programs. We want to recognize our committee who spent time looking through all of the applications and had to come to a consensus about giving the awards out. So very much appreciate their efforts. And then also just want to recognize Peter and Bonnie Reflect for their support of the Institute for Leadership and Service. And so We're going to ask the awardees to please stick around for group pictures at the end. You all are welcome to mingle as you want, but that is our evening for tonight. And so just one last round of applause if we would recognize all of our award winners. So. Thank you all and have a good evening.